All right, guys, welcome back to the third video in our series on Introduction to Scripting. Now, on this video, one of the things we're going to be doing is we're going to be talking specifically about all of the different things, once again, inside of our Microsoft Visual Studios window. So let's just get straight to the program, and let's help everything make a little bit more sense. All right. So when we're here inside of our Microsoft Visual Studios window, once again, what the first thing you'll notice is we have blue for every single keyword. Then second thing you can know about a keyword is very rarely are they ever capitalized. The only ones that are capitalized on our window right now that are in blue are start and update, because those are super, super, super important. They are super, super, super different than basically everything else. So how are they different? Realistically, they are singular. They're solo. They're the only ones basically of their kind. I'm not going to have multiple starts in my program. I'm also not going to generally have multiple updates in my program. So because they run singularly by themselves for most of the time, they're generally the only ones that are capitalized. Everything else in here that is blue is not capitalized at all. For example, class is not capitalized, public is not capitalized, and neither is a void. So let me just kind of help you kind of hopefully understand what else we're looking at here. So a class is a system of organization. We talked about it in our last video. In our last video, one of the things I did, I brought out my little fun folders, and we talked about that this is a system of organization. Now, in our program, in our video game, we can have as many classes as you need. I mean, just think about this. Right now, you're in Fundamentals of 3D Motion Graphics class. You could go to English and Science, History. You could go to all these different classes, whatever it takes to help you graduate. Same thing in a video game setting. So this is a class. Everything from here down is a class, and inside that class are certain levels of organization. Okay. So it would be like the first thing you do when you go into a class is you open up the front door, and then while you're in the class, there's all kinds of things that happen inside of there. Okay. One of the reasons why we start off the word class with public is because some things in our game are going to be out there for anybody in the entire world, basically, if you're a programmer, to be able to see and get access to. That is a public class. Now, there are other classes out there, specifically like a private class, and a private class is only ascribed to, it's only accessible by specific programmers or specific people that I then give permission to be in there. So that's why we have a public class to be able to work with. And this one needs to be public because we're going to be doing stuff inside of it from the start and then throughout the rest of the game. The name of this class is one I started off with by naming the script. The name of it is called Hello World. So we have what this object is. It's a class. We have who can access this class. It's open to the public. And then we have the name of it, which is Hello World. And why in the world is it named Hello World? Because Hello World is generally the first program that every programming student gets to build. It's so simple, it's straightforward, it's really, really easy, and it's a wonderful introduction into programming. Now, you'll see the colon, which is very rarely ever used in code. And then we have another word back here, and that describes basically what's going to happen and who can use this public class named Hello World. And it is ascribed to MonoBehavior. Now, MonoBehavior was the original name of the program that instead of Microsoft Visual Studios. Originally, when Unity came out, they came out with their own IDE program that you did all of your programming inside of, your scripting, your coding. And the name of that program was MonoBehavior. MonoBehavior was then later on dropped. It was basically too much for the company to try and keep Unity up and running and keep MonoBehavior up and running. So they opted to double down on Unity and allow the scripting, the programming, the coding to be done in a different IDE. And that, of course, is what we're in right now, which is Microsoft Visual Studios, which is actually a good thing because Mono Behavior was not necessarily the program that you wanted to work with. It was kind of a turd. It just wasn't the best. Now you'll notice that Hello World and Mono Behavior are in a yet another different color. It's kind of a little aqua like color. It's got a lot of blue and a little bit of green in there. So it's kind of in between blue and green. Once again, all of our colors inside of our programs, they all mean things. And so this is specific to names that they are utilizing in the program. Okay, let's move forward. So now that you understand that we are working inside of a class that's public, everybody can get access to it. And the name of that public class is Hello World. And we're going to be relating it back to Unity through the extinct IDE Mono Behavior. Let's start talking about what's inside of our program. Once again, you can tell we're inside of the program because we have the open and closed curly brackets. So there's open and there's closed. From here, we have the first thing we come across is yet another color, right? So this color here is green, and green is specifically kind of set aside for comments. Now, let's say, for example, you have built a video game, and I'm a programmer that just got hired in the company, and I have come alongside to help you with the programming. So as I have come alongside to help you with this programming, I have no clue what you guys have been doing. Today's my first day. So I come in and I open up your program and I start to see these little green things here. And what they are is they are comments. So I go through your program. I'm looking at your program itself and I read your little comments. Okay, so start is called at before the first frame update. So what that's telling me is, okay, so everything from here to here is basically dictated by what you've done here. You've given me a little note on what's happening. Okay, so this is a function, something that happens in our game, and it's called before the first frame of the game, or before the game basically, I mean, it's ish started, but we haven't started the updates yet. So this is the very first thing I'm going to see. Okay, I get that. Thank you. That is a helpful note to help me understand what you've got going on inside the program. Now, if you'll notice, once again, I've got another line of green right down here. This is another comment. And by the way, the computer doesn't read comments. It literally ignores anything you type after this. It says update is called upon once per frame. So every time the game does another frame, it runs through everything inside this update function. All right. So, and you can tell it's a function because we've not given it the word class. And what does function mean? It's just a line of code that does stuff. That's all it is. It's just a line of code that does stuff. All right. So this comment right here says, hey, this happens before this actually happens. And in this happens once every single time the frame is updated. Okay, cool. Well, believe it or not, if you understand everything that I've said so far, and if you haven't, then go back and watch the video a couple times. That's why I create videos, so you can watch them and watch them and watch them and watch them. Okay. Basically what we've done is that we now understand everything that's going on in our very, very simple, very, very basic little program. Still a couple keywords that we don't quite totally and completely understand, and that's okay. I don't have to describe every single thing to you at the beginning. Like, you know, your brain's probably full right now anyway. All right. So once again, this is the name of this function. It's start. It only happens on the start. This is the name of this function, and it happens every single time that the game is updated frame by frame by frame. And this right here, these little parentheses, we always use parentheses when we want to bring in data or interesting information that we need to use. You'll notice that I've got the opening and close one, and that just simply tells you that I'm not carrying any data into this start function just yet, or I'm not carrying any data into my update function just yet. And that's why this word here is void because what that means is once I get done running all this code, I can return information out of this code to be able to be used somewhere else. Well, I'm saying I don't need to do that with the word void. I could literally take this word void away, and when I do so, I can now return information out of this function whenever I've done it. So I've run these lines of code and I've got a special number and I want to use that somewhere else so I can return that data up out of this function. All right. So with that, a very confusing, hopefully not confusing introduction into Microsoft Unity. You now know more than just about 90% of the people in the entire world when it comes to programming. You can look at this and kind of understand this. And here's just a fun little story for you real quick. Literally one day I went to the Apple store. And while I was looking at the Apple store, they had these really cool little robots in the store. I was fascinated by them. And as I was watching this little robot in a video do stuff, they had another video right below that had programming running. And I discovered that by looking at it, it was highlight a line of code and then the robot would do something. And then it would highlight another line of code and the robot would do something else. And just by seeing the connection between the little robot and the line of code, I began to figure out exactly what was going on in that program. Here's the funny thing. I did not understand the language that they were programming in. I work in C++ and C#, which is what C# is what we're working in today. But I didn't have to know the language just because I understood the basic mechanics of the program. I could copy previous lines of code and just change things and make that robot do my own thing. It was actually really cool. It was this huge eye opener. To me, it was kind of like the Rosetta Stone. It just kind of unlocked this whole treasure for me. And hopefully that's what this little introduction has done for you guys. You can now look at these lines of code and you go, okay, so there's a function. There's a function. You may not even remember the name. That's fine. Here's a class. I know it's a class because I can read the word class and everybody can see it. And its name is blah, blah, blah. Oh, and hey, these are the dictionaries of keywords that we're going to be using. That's it. 3 basic things in the entire program, hopefully deciphered for you. All right. In the next video, what we're going to do is we're going to use all the information that I've been telling you so far. And we're actually going to create our very first program. We will see you back in that video in a couple of minutes.